Caleb gave him that look again. It was a look reserved for fools. He questioned Leo's sense of value. One moment the offered money was too much. The next, he was talking about 100 million. He asked if Leo had any concept of money. Leo defended his position with confidence. A salary was for a job. A job has a standard market rate. Money from the chairman's wife was different. That was a family expense. He explained his number was based on Caleb's assets. He even thought the figure was a little low. His reasoning was strangely sound. Leo then asked if Caleb read billionaire romance novels. The numbers in those stories were truly staggering. A look of wistful fantasy crossed his face. Caleb resisted the urge to tap him on the head. He dismissed the thought as nonsense. Leo's face flushed. He smiled and softened his voice. He reassured Caleb he had nothing to worry about. Even if the chairman's wife approached him, he would not accept anything from her. Caleb's lips formed a thin line. He looked up, his expression skeptical. He questioned if Leo was always this principled. Leo clenched his fists with determination. He had already accepted Caleb's offer. They had a signed contract. He would absolutely maintain professional ethics. He would be a convincing fake boyfriend. He would not take the money and run. He paused, his voice turning serious. He admitted the idea was very tempting. Caleb's face remained an emotionless mask. He stated plainly that the offer would never come. Leo sighed with theatrical disappointment. He knew it was true. In reality, the wealthy were far more calculating. They were not characters in a paperback novel. It was better to collect a steady salary from Caleb. The CEO's paycheck was reliable. The chairman's wife's money was a fantasy. A doubled salary was a beautiful reality. He felt a wave of satisfaction. He told Caleb to call him for future gigs. Caleb's voice turned cold and menacing. He asked if Leo was sure about that. He never paid for work that was not earned. Leo silently cursed the nature of capitalism. Pay someone double to exploit them tenfold. He pushed the jokes aside for now. He forced his expression to become serious. He asked Caleb if this plan would really work. Would the chairman finally relent? Caleb became intensely focused when discussing business. He gave a simple two-word answer. It will. Mr. Vance would not ignore this opportunity. Leo felt a sense of relief. They both put away their copies of the contract. Caleb announced that their business was concluded. He told Leo to go home. Leo opened the door but paused in the doorway. Caleb looked at him expectantly. Leo hesitated for a moment. He asked if they should do something more. They were a couple now, after all. Caleb seemed uncertain. He had no experience with these matters. He asked for Leo's opinion for once. He wondered what Leo wanted him to do. Leo suggested Caleb could drive him home. That seemed like a normal thing for a couple. Caleb stared at him with a blank expression. He offered to reimburse Leo for the gas. Their first attempt at a fake relationship was clumsy. Both men were complete novices. Later that night, Leo was home. The day's events felt like a strange dream. He examined the contract again and again. The situation remained baffling and surreal. He wondered why the CEO chose him. His boss had a peculiar way of thinking. He also could not believe his own audacity. He had actually agreed to the scheme. He decided to treat it like a side hustle. He found a safe place for the contract. He sat on his bed and looked at a small doll. It was a cheap prize from a ramen promotion. A photo of Caleb was taped to its head. The picture was almost a year old and wrinkled. Leo spoke to the doll softly. He never imagined his boss would also be his client. He asked the doll for its guidance. The fake underground romance had an immediate effect. The next day, Caleb received a call. It was from his father, Mr. Vance. The chairman shouted a single curse. Then he abruptly hung up the phone. Caleb raised an eyebrow, staring at his phone. He walked out of his office. He calmly informed Leo and another assistant. The chairman was handled. They would soon sign the Velocity contract. The assistant and secretary were stunned. It all happened so quickly. In fact, it was faster than they imagined. That afternoon, headquarters sent the preliminary plan. The two divisions would jointly develop the project. An official letter of intent was sent. Velocity's CEO called Caleb personally. He congratulated him on the successful partnership. Just like that, the deal was settled. Leo was amazed by the development. The Velocity deal had been a persistent problem. It was solved in such an unconventional way. He finally understood corporate battles. They were unpredictable and complex. Networks of interest and relationships were tangled. It was impossible to see things clearly. Caleb did not rush to celebrate. Instead, he called a meeting with the project team. He explained the outcome was not ideal, but it was the best result they could achieve. His division had wanted the entire deal. Now they had to share it. This was not the end of the struggle. A key piece of technology was still controlled by their rival. Marcus Thorne would leverage it for maximum profit. They needed to prepare a counter-strategy. Caleb outlined several points for them to consider. Finally, his tone softened. He acknowledged their interim victory. He told everyone to rest before the next phase. The team erupted in cheers. They playfully demanded Caleb treat them to dinner. Caleb, of course, agreed. The office atmosphere had not been this relaxed. Leo found himself smiling along with them. But there was one thing he needed to confirm. He quietly approached Caleb before the dinner. He asked if Caleb would really tell everyone. Caleb's response was a simple question. Did Leo think anyone would actually believe it? Leo was grateful for his boss's prickly reputation. No one expected him to have a personal life. Caleb glanced at him and made a promise. He said he would limit the exposure. Their secret was safe here in the office. His expression was calm and confident. He had an undeniable air of control. He was the CEO. He controlled the narrative in his own company. Leo felt his anxiety ease. He still had so much to learn. He wanted to focus on his work. He did not want his environment to be disrupted. Caleb looked down at him. His words were still blunt, but his tone held a hint of indulgence. He told Leo to focus on his job. He should not worry about other things. Leo's lips curved into a small smile. He bowed slightly. He promised he would do his best. The following days were filled with negotiations. The project team gradually handed off responsibilities. The work moved to the marketing and production teams. Leo remained busy with his duties. He also prepared for a test from Caleb's family. But Mr. Vance remained silent after that single call. The chairman's wife never appeared. He did not see a single shadow, let alone a check. Leo began to wonder about his new side job. Was the money really this easy to earn? All he had to do was exist. A sense of unease settled over him. His professional pride was slightly wounded. He had mentally rehearsed his lines at night, but there was no stage for his performance. Just as he thought this, the stage appeared. The corporation summoned Caleb and Marcus for a meeting. Caleb preferred to avoid Marcus Thorne. All communication went through subordinates, but a direct order from the board was unavoidable. Caleb brought his team to the headquarters. This visit felt different for everyone. Their team walked with a renewed sense of pride. The corporation had tried to suppress them, but they had secured the deal anyway. A seed of resentment was planted. The executives on Caleb's team felt slighted, but they concealed their thoughts for the meeting. They ran into Marcus's team outside the conference room. Marcus walked at the front of his group. His expensive suit could not hide his crude demeanor. He saw Caleb and gave a hollow smile. He remarked on their unlikely partnership. He claimed the Velocity project was his. He was graciously sharing a piece with Caleb. Caleb's team members bristled with anger. Their division was leading the production. Marcus was trying to claim CR. Caleb walked forward until he stood beside Marcus. He was a full head taller than his rival. Caleb asked a single, pointed question. Had Marcus paid off his debts yet? Marcus's face darkened. Caleb's division was actually helping him. Marcus could barely make his loan payments. His company could not handle the project's costs alone. Caleb's team had offered to take the full burden, but Marcus had refused the help. Now they were forced to work together. The same facts told a very different story. Caleb's subordinates hid their smirks. Their rival's financial trouble was a known fact. Caleb's expression was cool and distant. His tone was flat and unemotional. He advised Marcus to be careful. He should count his remaining debts. This new project might bankrupt him. Marcus gritted his teeth. He muttered a threat. After their verbal sparring, both teams entered. Everyone took their seats. The chairman, Mr. Vance, entered the room. He was followed by another man. It was Caleb's brother, Julian. Julian was dressed in a casual jacket. He wore black-rimmed glasses and a small ponytail. He looked completely out of place. Everyone else was in a formal business suit. Leo was slightly surprised. He glanced at Julian. Julian turned his head at the same moment. He gave Leo a quick, subtle wink. Before Leo could react, Caleb frowned. Leo wanted to look again, but he felt a sharp, predatory gaze on him. It was heavy with pressure and unspoken threats. The gaze seemed to pierce right through him. Leo was startled and quickly looked down. The chairman was staring at him. Mr. Vance must know about them. That would explain the angry phone call. But what about Julian? Did he know too? Leo did not dare to make a wrong move. He focused on his tasks with perfect decorum. The chairman would not confront him publicly. The meeting quickly moved to the main agenda. The chairman had brought the head of R&D. He needed to confirm one final detail. Caleb's team would handle the main production, but the charging module was Marcus's responsibility. The corporate R&D center would provide oversight. They were determined to keep the new tech from Caleb. Caleb's face was a stone mask. His team members looked displeased. The corporation still treated them like outsiders. Caleb spoke calmly. He agreed to the terms. But the final assembly must be done by his team. Mr. Vance glanced at his younger son. He conceded the point. Julian's lips curved into a lazy, confident smile. Mr. Vance was confident for a reason. Julian had assured him of the technology. Even if Caleb's team disassembled the module, they would never be able to replicate it. The final details were settled. Marcus Thorne relaxed, a look of relief on his face. Leo felt the suffocating atmosphere again. He wondered if the chairman still distrusted Caleb. Caleb had been a loner for years. His sudden interest in men was suspicious. Leo felt he had to do something. He was earning double pay after all. The meeting moved to smaller details. Caleb asked a subordinate for a document. Leo quickly retrieved the file. He stood and walked to Caleb's side. He handed the papers to his boss. Caleb reached for the file without looking up. He suddenly felt a touch on his hand. Warm, soft fingertips brushed against his own. They paused on the back of his hand. The touch was deliberate and suggestive. It lasted for exactly 3 seconds. Caleb turned his head. He met Leo's eyes. Leo gave him a faint, shy smile. He lowered his gaze, his eyelashes fluttering. For a moment, his eyes held a charming light. He placed the file in Caleb's hand. The entire interaction took less than 5 seconds, but it was filled with unspoken meaning. When he looked up again, his expression was serious. His attitude was respectful and professional. He was the perfect, diligent assistant. Caleb stared at him for a moment longer. He wondered if he had imagined it. Leo returned to his seat. Caleb collected himself and continued the discussion. The meeting ended. One thing was clear. Everyone would profit from the Velocity project. Caleb's team was eager to leave headquarters. But Caleb did not rush. He called out to Leo. He asked his assistant to come with him. The others assumed it was for business. They waited without asking questions. Caleb led Leo down the corridor. No one dared to stop him, even here. They soon reached the end of the hall. Leo was about to ask where they were going. Caleb suddenly grabbed him. He pushed him through the door to the fire escape. Leo stumbled back into the stairwell. Caleb followed, closing the distance. He trapped him against the concrete wall. Leo's back was pressed against the cold surface. Caleb's tall frame loomed over him. He was caught between the wall and Caleb's chest. Leo looked up, confused. Caleb was squinting, studying him intently. The light in the stairwell was dim, cast shadows on Caleb's handsome face. It made his features appear sharper. The wall was cold, but Caleb's body was warm. The contrast made Leo's face flush. Caleb lowered his voice. What was he doing back there? Leo's throat felt dry. He finally managed a small whisper. He was trying to be proactive. How else would the chairman believe them? Caleb leaned closer. Their breaths mingled in the small space. Caleb reminded him they were a secret couple. He emphasized the word secret. It meant no public displays. Leo looked at Caleb's sharp jawline. His cheeks were tinged with pink. He insisted he knew his limits. Only the chairman would have noticed. The others were not paying attention. It was the essence of a secret affair. A subtle hint of forbidden passion. A touch of impatience within restraint. A hint of pride was in Leo's voice. His eyes seemed to ask a silent question. Wasn't his performance brilliant? Caleb's eyes narrowed further. His thin lips twitched slightly. He let out a soft snort. He told Leo he was playing with fire. Leo clenched his fists. He looked away with a pained expression. Caleb's gaze fell on his pale cheek. The skin was now a delicate shade of pink. Caleb's expression darkened. Just then, the stairwell door opened. Mr. Vance stood in the doorway. His face was a mask of fury. The position of the two men was ambiguous. They were not touching, but they were incredibly close. If Caleb lowered his head, he could kiss Leo's hair. Mr. Vance felt a sharp pain in his chest. He had wished his son was a spoiled playboy. He would have gladly supported that lifestyle. But Caleb was not like that. He was disciplined and hardworking. His business acumen was astonishing. Why did Caleb have to be so capable? The family already had Julian. Everyone believed Caleb only cared about work. They thought he was a loner by choice. Then his wife came home crying. Caleb was interested in men. He was having a secret affair with his assistant. Mr. Vance's first reaction was not anger. It was disbelief. He knew his son. After 30 years of solitude, this seemed unlikely. He had seen the assistant before. The young man seemed terrified of Caleb. This did not look like romance. But Mr. Vance had a soft spot for his son. He knew this was Caleb's way of yielding. So he made the angry phone call. He approved the Velocity project. But a sliver of doubt remained. Until today, he saw the assistant flirt during the meeting. He saw Caleb fall for it. He watched Caleb drag the man to a stairwell. He had cornered him against a wall. What would have happened if he hadn't come? Mr. Vance's face was ashen. His emotions were a tangled mess. It was the first time he saw Caleb so close. Even Caleb's mother could not get that close. Both men turned to look at him. They did not move. Mr. Vance's voice was a low growl. He ordered them to separate. Caleb took a step back. Leo bowed respectfully. He greeted the chairman. Mr. Vance wanted to shout, but he could not cause a scene. He spoke with a fierce whisper. He warned them not to misbehave in his company. Leo adopted an innocent expression. He claimed it was a misunderstanding. They were not doing anything. He turned and tugged on Caleb's sleeve. He asked Caleb to explain things. Mr. Vance had a headache looking at him. The young man had seemed so normal before. A year with Caleb had changed him. He glared at them both. He told them to leave if they were finished. He turned and walked away. Leo waited until he was gone. He blinked, slightly confused. Was that it? He had expected a much more dramatic scene. He had been prepared for it. Caleb straightened his suit. He spoke with his usual indifference. He explained his father was still uncertain. He did not know how to handle him yet. No one knew his father better than Caleb. Mr. Vance was angry about the affair, but he also thought it might make Caleb more manageable. The chairman knew his best move was to wait. Leo asked if his father believed them. Caleb's eyes were deep and unreadable. He said belief was not the important part. What his father hoped for was the key. Leo felt he understood, but not completely. Caleb gestured with his head. He told Leo it was time to go. Leo hesitated. Caleb commanded him to speak. Leo's mouth twitched. He finally said what was on his mind. He told Caleb his acting was terrible. The atmosphere had been perfect. Their performance was reaching a dramatic peak. Then Caleb said that ridiculous line. He had almost laughed out loud. He looked at Caleb with sincere concern. He reminded him that his mother was an actress. Hadn't he inherited any of her talent? Caleb's voice was dangerously low. He told Leo to shut up. He turned away without looking at him. He said they were going back. This was not the place for this conversation. The chairman had seen what he needed to see. Mission accomplished. It was time to retreat. When they returned, no one seemed to notice. The chairman had clearly kept the incident quiet. Back at the office, Caleb was the ruthless CEO again. Leo was the ever-agreeable assistant. But today, the CEO was particularly demanding. Leo brought him a cup of tea. Caleb took one sip. He asked what strange things were in it. Leo was momentarily confused. He listed the usual ingredients. Caleb criticized his choice. He said plain water was better. For a moment, Leo felt like a new hire again. Caleb had been critical of everything back then. But Leo was no longer that timid assistant. He smiled and picked up the cup. He apologized and offered to make a new one. He returned with a fresh cup. He placed it on the desk with a cheerful smile. He invited Caleb to enjoy it. Caleb looked into the cup. It was just plain hot water. Not even a tea leaf. Leo smiled brightly. He had put nothing in it at all. Caleb looked up, his gaze intense. There were other things to criticize. A document needed an extra copy. A spot was missed during cleaning. Whatever Caleb said, Leo did. He maintained a professional smile the entire time. His service was impeccable. He gave his boss no reason to be angry. The other assistants exchanged glances. Caleb was tormenting Leo again. It had been a while since they saw this. Sometimes the CEO was kind to Leo. Other times he was a relentless tyrant. They felt a little sorry for him, but they were also grateful. Leo was absorbing the CEO's anger. Leo was used to Caleb's moods. He knew his boss held grudges. He often used work to settle personal scores. He wondered what he had done wrong. He thought back to the meeting. Was it the public performance? Or was it his critique of Caleb's acting? He suspected it was the latter. A man like Caleb would not tolerate criticism. He regretted speaking his mind. Usually, he kept such thoughts to himself. But that line had been too ridiculous to ignore. That evening, Caleb left on time. He walked past Leo's desk without a word. Leo tidied the office as usual. He made sure everything was spotless. Then he locked the glass doors and left. He took the elevator to the parking garage. He walked toward his car. He saw Caleb standing in front of it. His boss was tall and imposing. He was staring directly at him. Leo walked over. He asked Caleb why he was here. Caleb did not answer. He just tilted his head toward the car. It was a clear command to unlock it. Leo unlocked the doors. He asked if Caleb wanted to drive or ride. Caleb slid directly into the driver's seat. Leo sighed and got in the passenger side. Caleb started the car without a word. The silence felt heavy. Leo did not dare to make a joke. He sat properly and stared ahead. The problem was, he did not know their destination. The sky was still bright. The city was bathed in the late evening light. Caleb drove further and further away. Leo did not recognize the route. A small flicker of panic ignited. Then he realized where they were going. This was the way to Caleb's residence. Leo had never been there, but he knew the name of the complex. His heart settled back into his chest. As long as he was not being driven to a remote location, Caleb did not drive directly home. He stopped the car on a quiet street. This was a wealthy neighborhood. The streets were less crowded here. The sky darkened quickly. Street lights began to glow one by one. They cast a warm yellow light. Leo still did not speak. He carefully glanced at his boss. Caleb was staring out the window. Leo decided to take the initiative. He apologized for his earlier comment. He said he shouldn't have criticized Caleb's acting. He asked his boss not to be angry. Caleb turned to look at him. His gaze was dark and intense. He said Leo was right to feel bad, because his own acting was also terrible. It was over the top and unnatural. So that was the reason for his anger. They sat in mutual, silent judgment. Neither man would concede. The atmosphere in the car was tense. Leo realized something else was bothering Caleb. Was it about his father? Leo used to respect Mr. Vance. Now he knew how the chairman treated Caleb. The respect had vanished. He felt Caleb deserved better. He took a deep breath. He tried to offer some comfort. He told Caleb not to be sad about his father. Caleb cut him off immediately. He denied that was the issue. Leo was confused. Then what was it? He reminded Caleb they were on the same team. He needed to know the problem to help. Caleb's expression was grim. He finally spoke. "You touched my hand." So that was it. Leo was slow to remember Caleb's phobia. He stammered, asking if he had made him uncomfortable. Caleb admitted that he had. Leo then pointed out their proximity in the stairwell. Caleb glanced at him. He said that was his absolute limit. No wonder he had only leaned in. Leo felt a strange pang of disappointment. He also felt sorry for his boss. Caleb could not explain the feeling. When Leo touched him, he felt many things, but disgust was not one of them. He had pulled Leo into the stairwell to test it. He wanted to confirm his own reaction, but he had been unable to go further. Leo was silent for a moment. He asked what they should do. If they were acting, physical contact was inevitable. The chairman might test them again. And his mother would need to be convinced. Close contact would be necessary. Caleb would ruin the act if he showed disgust. And the thought of that happening hurt a little. Leo said they needed a plan. Caleb asked what kind of plan. Leo thought for a moment. He asked why Caleb's phobia seemed inconsistent. He could interact with people normally sometimes. It was a strange, selective condition. Caleb explained that he just endured it. Then he would go home to shower and change. It was impossible to avoid contact in business. He did not tell Leo about his worst episodes. He used to throw everything out of his house. He had become calmer with age. Leo had an idea. He tentatively suggested desensitization therapy. Caleb raised an eyebrow. Therapists had failed to help him. What could Leo possibly do? They sat in the small car. The space felt cramped with Caleb's presence. Leo gathered his courage. He shifted in his seat. He moved closer to Caleb. Caleb watched his every move. His hands were resting at his sides. Leo carefully placed his fingers on Caleb's hand. It was strange. The touch had felt natural during the act. Now his heart was pounding. His pale fingers moved on Caleb's skin. The touch was as light as a feather. It sent a subtle tremor through Caleb's nerves. Caleb watched him with hooded eyes. Leo did not apply any pressure. He spoke softly. He said they would have to touch often. It was better to get used to it now. He looked up to gauge Caleb's reaction. He suggested they could adapt slowly. Perhaps Caleb could learn to accept his touch. He asked if his boss was okay. Caleb lifted his gaze. His dark eyes were intense. The look startled Leo. He quickly pulled his hand away. He said Caleb should speak up if he was uncomfortable. There was no need to rush. Caleb grabbed his hand. He held it firmly in his own palm. Leo was too shocked to speak. Caleb squeezed his long, cool fingers. He frowned slightly. This was the feeling. It was like scratching an itch with a knife. It relieved the craving but also caused pain. But not doing it was its own form of torture. Caleb's hand was large. It enveloped Leo's completely. It made his hand look delicate. Leo's face turned red. He finally found his voice. He whispered that it hurt a little. He did not mind the contact. He wanted to help Caleb. But his boss was too strong. The feeling of being controlled was frightening. Caleb let go. Leo pulled back his hand. It was red from the pressure. Caleb looked at the marks. He asked if Leo was all right. Leo shook his head, his face still flushed. A quiet, charged silence filled the car. Leo did not overthink it. His boss was clearly uncomfortable. But he was not completely repulsed. He knew the phobia was psychological. If Caleb saw him as an ally, it might help. Leo took a deep breath. He tried to calm the blush on his cheeks. He told Caleb this level of contact was enough. It was only for an act after all. Their terrible acting had convinced the chairman. But Caleb turned his head. His voice was low and distant. It's not enough. He said Leo should come to his house. He needed to know the way. He explained that a lover should know the address. It would be suspicious otherwise. Leo thought that was not necessarily true, but he considered Caleb's lonely persona. A visit to his home would seem significant. It would show this relationship was different. It might get his family's attention. So he agreed. He adjusted his posture. He said it made perfect sense. They should go. Caleb seemed surprised by his easy agreement. He started the car again. The car moved through the early night. They soon arrived near Caleb's residence. Caleb slowed the car down. Leo looked out the window. He could see the building. It was a modern gray and white structure. It was set back among lush greenery. It was exactly what you would expect. He told Caleb he had memorized the route. He looked at his boss expectantly. He hoped Caleb would stop the car. Instead, Caleb asked a question. "Aren't you coming in for a bit?" Leo was shocked into silence. Everyone knew about Caleb's obsessive cleanliness. He did not even have a live-in housekeeper. Now he was inviting Leo inside. He did not dare to accept. Caleb saw the fear in his eyes. He parked the car by the curb. He said maybe another day. Today was too sudden. He got out of the car. He let Leo take the driver's seat. He told him to go home and eat. Leo nodded. He said Caleb should do the same. He waved to his boss. He started the car and turned around. As he drove away, he saw Caleb in the mirror. He was standing on the curb watching him leave. Today's Caleb seemed different. He gripped the steering wheel. The feeling of Caleb's hand lingered on his. He rubbed his fingers on his pants. He tried to erase the invasive sensation. Leo thought the another day was a polite fiction. He never expected to hear about it again. But at the end of the week, Caleb summoned him. He informed Leo he was coming over tomorrow. Leo's eyes widened in surprise. Caleb asked if he was unwilling. Leo answered automatically, "Of course, I'm willing." He immediately regretted his enthusiasm. He was also a little afraid. Caleb disliked physical contact. But invading someone's personal space also took courage. Leo cautiously asked if he was sure. Caleb's previous hesitation was gone. His voice was calm and resolute. He was sure. Leo did not understand the necessity. Caleb saw his confusion and explained. Someone had been investigating him. They had checked his records. They had looked into his family background. So that was the reason. Leo understood that they feared he had ulterior motives. They worried he was a corporate spy. Caleb asked him again, "So, are you coming tomorrow?" Leo's answer was firm. Yes. He was resolute in the office. He was less brave in private. He went shopping after work. He bought a gift for Caleb. It was his first time visiting his boss's home. He could not arrive empty-handed. He took a long shower when he got home. He did not want to be considered unclean. He tossed and turned in bed that night. He dreamed he was at a dark, Gothic castle. The walls were covered in ivy. Ugly gargoyles perched on the roof. The heavy door creaked open. Caleb appeared in a black cape. His face was pale. His eyes were red. He smiled, revealing sharp fangs. It was a ridiculous dream. The next morning, he showered again. He felt as if he had caught Caleb's phobia. He finally left with the gift. He found the address easily. He parked in front of the building. He sent Caleb a text message. Caleb told him to come right in. Leo took a deep breath. He grabbed the gift and got out of the car. Caleb's building was a modern duplex. He had bought both units on his floor. Leo walked through the small front yard. The door opened as he approached. Caleb stood there. He was dressed in his usual work attire, but he was not wearing a tie. Leo felt a wave of relief. At least it was not the vampire from his dream. "Good morning," he said. Caleb's gaze was flat. He pointed out the late hour. It was hardly morning anymore. The familiar criticism was comforting. They stood in silence. A doorway separated them. Neither man moved. Caleb did not step aside. Leo did not ask to enter. After a long moment, Leo spoke. He asked if he could come in. Caleb grunted in affirmation. Leo cautiously stepped over the threshold. He kept 1 foot inside and 1 foot out. He watched Caleb's expression closely. He asked if this was okay. Caleb nodded. Leo remained in his awkward position. He asked one final time for confirmation. Caleb's patience wore thin. He told him to stop dawdling. Leo finally entered the house. He stood inside and offered the gift. He wore a brilliant smile. He thanked Caleb for the invitation. He was very happy to be there. He was nervous but also excited. Felt like a school field trip. Caleb's expression softened. Leo was the first guest in this home. To be honest, Caleb was uncomfortable. His private space had been breached. The feeling of invasion was unsettling. He had almost regretted the invitation, but Leo's cautious respect had soothed him. He took the gift. He mumbled that Leo shouldn't have brought anything. Leo explained it was a room diffuser. It was the same brand as Caleb's cologne. It was even the same scent. Caleb raised an eyebrow. He acknowledged the thoughtful gesture. Leo changed his shoes. He followed Caleb into the house. The interior was surprisingly normal. It was luxurious, but not ostentatious. The decor was mostly neutral tones. The materials were high quality. It was a comfortable, tasteful living space. Leo had expected something cold and minimalist. Caleb did not offer a tour. Leo did not dare to wander. He sat on the living room sofa. He complimented the apartment. He said it suited Caleb's taste. Caleb grunted in response. He told Leo to be less formal. Leo agreed but sat stiffly on the couch. He fiddled with his fingers nervously. Caleb could see his anxiety. He tried to break the awkward silence. He asked about the schedule for next week. Leo was startled by the work question. He dutifully reported on the upcoming meetings. They talked about work for a few minutes. Then silence fell again. Nothing was more awkward than discussing work, especially when visiting someone's home. Leo racked his brain for a topic. A thought suddenly occurred to him. He asked if the house was bugged. Caleb stared at him. He asked if Leo watched too many spy movies. Leo laughed sheepishly. He just wondered if they needed to perform, even here in the house. As he said it, he realized the implication. What kind of performance would that be? His eyes darted to the large sofa. It was certainly big enough for two men. Apparently, Caleb had the same thought. He told Leo not to be ridiculous. The surveillance would not extend to his home, but the news of his visit would be on the chairman's desk. Leo's face felt hot. He decided he should stay for a while. It would make the report more convincing. Caleb saw his blush. He suggested they eat lunch. It was early, but they had nothing else to do. Caleb led him to the dining room. Leo awkwardly said he brought his own lunchbox. He had prepared for this possibility. Caleb turned and stared at him. Leo explained he could eat separately. He would not have to use the house dishes. He just wanted to see inside Leo's head sometimes. Did he think he would make him eat in a corner? Caleb realized Leo saw him as a cruel boss. His expression soured. He ordered Leo to sit down. He reminded him they had eaten together before. Leo cautiously sat at the large dining table. It was already set with plates and cutlery. Caleb went to the kitchen to get the hot dishes. Leo jumped up to help. Caleb shot him a cold look. He ordered him to sit down and not move. Caleb was annoyed by Leo's timid behavior. It was a mix of fear and pity. It was the way one treated a difficult patient. He was so irritated he almost forgot his phobia. He returned from the kitchen with several dishes. The amount of food was far too much for two people. Leo was flattered by the generous spread. Caleb placed a piece of steak on his plate. He told him to eat. Leo was even more surprised. He took a bite of the tender beef. It was delicious. He complimented the chef's skill. Caleb just grunted. He did not tell Leo the truth. He had bought the ingredients yesterday. He had spent the morning cooking everything himself. He was still angry about Leo's attitude. He added 2 more pieces of goose to his plate. He ordered him to eat more. The food was better than any restaurant. Leo often ate takeout alone. This felt like a rare home-cooked meal, a very high-end home-cooked meal. He decided to relax. He picked up some vegetables with his chopsticks. He placed them on Caleb's plate. He smiled and told his boss to eat too. Caleb's anger melted away. He did not show it, but the hard lines of his face softened. After the meal, Leo offered to do the dishes. Caleb just looked at him. He asked if Leo was a dishwasher. Leo gave up and followed him back to the living room. It was still early. They needed to spend more time here. But what could they do? He asked Caleb what he did at home. Caleb's answer was predictable. He worked out and watched the news. Financial news, of course. His life seemed very dull. Other wealthy men partied. Caleb only went to bars for business meetings. He threw the question back at Leo. Leo said he played video games online. Also quite boring. They sat on the sofa like two strangers on a blind date. Leo felt desperate. He remembered their long conversations in the past. Why was it so awkward today? He did not want to leave yet. He had to stay a little longer. Finally, Caleb suggested they watch a movie. Leo agreed immediately. They moved to the media room. Caleb closed the curtains and turned off the lights. The room became dark. He turned on the projector. He asked Leo what he wanted to watch. Leo said anything was fine. So Caleb chose a drama. Leo relaxed on the comfortable sofa. At least they did not have to stare at each other. He now understood the problem. It was awkward to develop a personal relationship. He had tried to act like a friend, but it did not work. Caleb was a naturally perceptive person. Leo felt like he was walking a tightrope. He could not relax. He did not know why. He was often bold with Caleb at work. Why not here? He could not focus on the movie. He finally understood the reason. This was his first visit. He wanted to make a good impression. He wanted Caleb to think he was polite and pleasant. That was why he was so self-conscious. Realization made his face burn. He felt hotter and hotter. He closed his eyes. He just needed to calm down. He had not slept well the night before. His nerves were frayed. He rested his eyes for a moment longer. Beside him, Caleb moved. The sofa shifted slightly. He turned to look at Leo. He was checking to see if he was asleep. For some reason, Leo did not open his eyes. He decided to pretend. A nap would help pass the afternoon. Caleb watched him for a long time. Then he leaned closer. Leo could feel the pressure of his presence. Then he felt a touch on his hand. Leo remained still. Caleb looked down at his long, pale fingers. The memory of their touch lingered. He reached out. He gently took Leo's hand in his own. Leo's mind raced. He told himself he was deeply asleep. He could not possibly wake up now. But Caleb grew bolder. He did not just hold his hand. He threaded his own fingers through Leo's. Their hands were now tightly interlaced. A jolt went through Leo. Blood rushed to his face and ears. He was glad the room was dark. Caleb held his hand and sighed. This was the feeling. It was a mix of revulsion and longing. It was a strange, addictive sensation. Caleb was satisfied, but Leo's mind was in turmoil. Was this more desensitization therapy? Should he be cooperating? But this seemed too intimate. He was nervous and flustered. The space between their joined hands grew damp. But Caleb did not seem to notice. He had to do something. He shifted slightly. He pretended to be restless in his sleep. The movement startled Caleb. He thought Leo was waking up. He leaned over to get a better look. The soft sofa dipped under his weight. Leo's body, limp in fake sleep, rolled sideways. He fell against Caleb's arm. His head came to rest on Caleb's shoulder. Well, he might as well continue the act. Caleb froze. He was clearly stunned by the sudden development. Leo was too embarrassed to move. He had to continue pretending. After a moment, Caleb shifted. Leo thought he was about to be pushed away, but he was wrong. Caleb simply leaned back. He adjusted his position. He made it more comfortable for Leo to rest. This was not what he expected. To make matters worse, Caleb never let go of his hand. So they sat there, hand in hand, leaning against each other. Leo told himself not to be embarrassed. His boss's shoulder was quite comfortable. The perfect angle, the firm muscle. It was better than any pillow. He relaxed into the position, and then he actually fell asleep. The soft fuzz of Leo's hair tickled Caleb's neck. He should have pushed him away, but he did not. He was beginning to enjoy this self-inflicted torture. The projector played to an empty audience. One man was asleep. The other was lost in thought. A long time passed. Leo finally stirred. He opened his eyes slowly. He had slept so well. He wondered what kind of pillow this was. Then he remembered. He blinked rapidly. He was still leaning on Caleb's shoulder. Their hands were still joined. He could not pretend any longer. He sat up quickly. He put on a shocked expression. How did I fall asleep? Caleb watched him with a heavy gaze. Leo apologized profusely. He said he was just so tired. He looked down at their hands. He feigned surprise. He asked what happened. He expected Caleb to mention the therapy. He was prepared to laugh it off. But Caleb said something else. He claimed Leo had grabbed his hand in his sleep. Then he had leaned against him. He was asleep, not unconscious. The man was shameless. He was blaming him. Leo could not admit he was faking. He had to play along. He mumbled something about sleepwalking. He pulled his hand from Caleb's grasp. The cool air felt strange on his skin. Caleb switched on the lights. The movie had ended long ago. The room was silent. They sat on the sofa, looking at each other. Leo asked what time it was. It was 4 o'clock. The chairman's report would be interesting. The CEO and his assistant spent the afternoon behind closed curtains in the dark. It left much to the imagination. Leo was about to suggest leaving. He noticed a small bookshelf near the sofa. It held some old classic film tapes, but next to them were several books. The covers were colorful and flashy. They looked like romance novels. He picked one up. He looked at the title and fell silent. He asked Caleb why he was reading these. Caleb answered matter-of-factly. He said Leo had mentioned the genre. He was doing market research on breakup fees. Leo was speechless. Caleb continued his analysis. He said they were sociologically interesting. They reflected the unrealistic desires of people. Leo asked what desires he meant. Caleb's answer was simple. The desire for a handsome billionaire to fall in love with you. In the end, Leo left before dinner. He did not want to impose further, but he would miss the food. The day had been a roller coaster of awkwardness. His skin felt a few centimeters thicker. That night he lay in bed. He could still feel the phantom sensation. Caleb's shoulder, the strength of his muscles. It was a shame he could never use it as a pillow again. Caleb had not pushed him away. He had held his hand all afternoon. Maybe he was becoming less repulsed. Caleb's phobia was psychological. Perhaps gradual exposure could cure it. There was another awkward point. Leo had not mentioned it. He was actually gay. Caleb was pretending. He was the real deal. That was why he blushed every time Caleb touched him. He knew Caleb did not mean it that way, but he had to keep his guard up. Monday arrived. Leo went to work as usual. Caleb was his normal, demanding self. Leo admired his ability to compartmentalize. He was a master of the double standard. Leo did not mention the weekend. It was easier for both of them that way. He was more comfortable with the tyrannical boss. Maybe he was just used to the pressure. They had created enough smoke and mirrors. Anyone watching them should be convinced by now. The Velocity project was moving smoothly, but their rival still guarded the key technology. Life and work had settled into a routine. Leo wondered if the drama was over. No one had confronted Caleb directly. Even the chairman had backed down. Caleb's mother had not shown up with a check. It seemed Caleb's family was a little afraid of him. They never confronted him directly. It was a strange family dynamic. A few days later, Leo was summoned. It was not from the chairman's wife. It was from Caleb's brother, Julian. He wanted to meet Leo alone. It seemed no one wanted to face Caleb directly. Leo was surprised. He went to Caleb's office. He told him about Julian's invitation. Caleb just nodded. He told Leo to go. Leo felt nervous. He asked why Julian wanted to see him. Caleb did not answer the question. Instead, he asked how Leo had addressed him. Leo explained it was for clarity. Caleb forbade him from using the familiar name. Leo sighed. He asked how he should handle the meeting. Caleb's advice was simple. Whatever Julian said, don't agree to it. Leo went to the meeting with that instruction. Julian had chosen a tea house near the office. It was quiet and private. The two brothers worked so close. Yet they refused to see each other. Julian had the same casual, academic look. Leo knew this man belonged in a lab, not at a negotiation table. Julian invited him to sit. He smiled at him warmly. Leo was not sure what Julian knew. He decided to be direct. He asked why Julian wanted to meet. Julian said he just wanted to see a beautiful person. Leo sighed. He said they could not talk if Julian kept that tone. Julian blinked behind his glasses. He insisted he was being sincere. He had felt it was a waste. Such a beautiful person ending up with Caleb. Leo was not sure if this was a test. He frowned. Julian laughed. He told him not to be so tense. This conversation was going nowhere. Just as Leo was about to leave, Julian spoke. He said he could give the charging technology to Caleb. The sudden change of topic startled Leo. This was a huge opportunity. He sat up straighter. He asked what Julian's conditions were. Julian smiled. He said Leo was all business. The condition was simple. He wanted Caleb's company to give more profit to Marcus. The Velocity deal was meant to save Marcus's company. Leo fell silent. He remembered Caleb's instructions. Caleb had anticipated this offer. He had never intended to accept it. Leo said they would refuse. Julian seemed amused. He asked if he should consult with Caleb. Leo said it was not necessary. He smiled faintly. He pointed out Julian's casual offer. It showed he never expected them to agree. Otherwise, they would be in a boardroom. Julian said that was why he disliked businessmen. Since Caleb refused to help, that was that. Julian changed the subject again. He said he was here on behalf of his mother's family. His uncle was a suspicious man. He thought Caleb's sudden romance was a prelude to a power play. He asked Leo if that was true. Leo feigned ignorance. He was just an assistant. He did not know the CEO's mind. Julian smiled knowingly. He asked if Leo was not his lover now. Leo lowered his eyes. His expression was a mix of sadness and joy. He said his title did not grant him any power. He was close to Caleb, but he could not influence him. Julian seemed to enjoy the performance. He asked what he should report back. Leo smiled sweetly. He said he could not control Julian's thoughts. He should report what he saw. Julian called him boring. The air was fickle. He lost interest when people played his own games. He decided to offer some real intelligence. He looked Leo in the eye. He said his mother's family had invested a lot in the chairman. They would not allow their investment to be cut out. Caleb's road ahead would be very long. Leo reported the entire conversation to Caleb. Caleb was unfazed. He said people outside of business were naive. He dismissed the topic. He told Leo the Velocity project was stable. This freed up time for other things. That sounded ominous. He pulled a file from his desk. He reminded Leo of a report he wrote last year. It was about the assistants' workloads. Leo remembered. It had required a lot of overtime. Caleb said he was adjusting the office staff. He was basing it on that report and recent observation. Leo understood immediately. Someone was going to be fired. He said he would cooperate fully. Caleb looked at him. He asked if Leo was not worried about his own job. Leo answered formally. He would have to rely on his side job. Caleb paused. He then remembered their arrangement. He said the side job was important, but his main job could not be neglected. He tossed a file to Leo. It contained the personnel change plan. He wanted Leo to review it and implement it. Leo was shocked. This was a huge responsibility. He said the office manager, Linus, should handle it. He had caused trouble with Linus before. Caleb informed him that Linus was on the list. There were 2 positions that needed to be filled. He looked at Leo expectantly. He had been with him for a year. Surely he could handle this. Leo knew it was another test. He took the file. He promised to get it done. Caleb was satisfied. He said he was about to add a new fish to the pond. Leo would see soon enough. The next day, a new assistant arrived. Leo understood Caleb's plan immediately. The newcomer was Felicia. She was a former colleague from his old department. She had once reported him based on a misunderstanding. After that incident, she had been moved to marketing. Her time there had apparently been difficult. Felicia was too blunt. She pointed out problems directly. This personality type always made enemies. The other assistants welcomed her warmly. Leo stood with them. Their eyes met. Leo gave her a friendly smile. Felicia just nodded, her expression neutral. Linus, the senior assistant, gave the official welcome. He was the unofficial leader of the group. Felicia was polite but not warm. She quickly settled at her new desk. Leo approached Linus. He asked how Felicia got the transfer. Linus understood the unspoken question. He whispered that Caleb had not told Leo beforehand. Leo shook his head. Linus gave him a sympathetic look. He said they all knew. Leo's expression flickered. Linus patted his shoulder. He said Caleb probably did not want to upset him. He promised they would not favor the newcomer. He implied that in any conflict, they would side with Leo. Leo thanked him with a grateful smile. Felicia adapted quickly, but she rarely smiled and kept to herself. Leo had his own task to complete. He announced another workload survey. He asked everyone to submit a list of their projects. Someone complained publicly. Leo just smiled. He said 6 months had passed. It was time for an update. He collected the information openly this time. The task would normally fall to Linus. Now it was Leo's job. The others gossiped. Leo was clearly the CEO's favorite. He was being given more and more power, but some were skeptical. The Caleb trusted him. Why hire Felicia? It was obviously a shot to Leo. The discussions were harmless, but they were noted. A few days later, Felicia brought a document to Leo. He was reviewing the digital version. Without looking up, he rejected it. He said Caleb would not even look at it. Felicia was confused. She said it was urgent. Leo finally looked at her. He said urgency was no excuse for sloppiness. He had sent out new formatting requirements. This document did not meet them. Felicia argued that it was a minor issue. The department said it was their standard format. Leo explained that standards had changed. He told her to have it redone. Felicia looked at the signed and stamped document. The entire process would have to be repeated. She took the file without another word. Later, Linus approached her. He said work in the CEO's office was demanding, but it was not always this rigid. He asked if Leo had rejected her file directly. Felicia nodded. Linus sighed. He said redoing the paperwork was a waste of time. He then wondered aloud. He said Caleb usually did not care about such small details. He suggested Leo might have made the decision himself. He told her that Leo often made decisions for the CEO. He warned her to get used to it. Felicia frowned. The assistants submitted their workload reports. Felicia, being new, had nothing to submit, but Leo approached her directly. He asked why she had not sent her report. She explained her situation. Leo smiled. He said she still had work from her old department. She should summarize that and send it to him. This was unreasonable, but Felicia agreed without argument. A few days later, Linus emerged from Caleb's office. He looked angry. The others asked what was wrong. He said he had mentioned the reports to Caleb, and Caleb had said he never requested them. Everyone was shocked. It meant Leo had acted on his own authority. They complained amongst themselves. They were all busy. They did not have time for Leo's power games. They asked what Caleb said. Linus sighed. He said Caleb told him to collect the reports anyway. He would look at them. They were glad their work was not wasted, but they were annoyed that Caleb had indulged Leo. Linus looked at Felicia. He said she had it the worst. She had to deal with this on top of learning a new job. Felicia said nothing. The others looked at her with a mix of pity and amusement. They knew about her past conflict with Leo. Of course, he would make things difficult for her. Friction between Leo and Felicia became common. The rest of the office watched, waiting for an explosion. One day, Leo went to HR. He asked for recommendations for new administrative staff. The news sent a wave of panic through the office. If new people were coming in, someone had to leave. Everyone worried. Leo was closest to the CEO. He could easily whisper in his ear and get rid of rivals. Linus confronted Leo privately. Leo assured him it was a routine promotion cycle. Linus asked if Caleb had put him in charge. Leo laughed. He said he had no such power. He was just relaying the message. Linus was relieved, but still uneasy. He told Leo his actions were creating anxiety. Leo nodded and apologized. He said he would be more careful next time. After their talk, Linus reported back to the others. He said Leo was indeed involved in personnel changes. The mood in the office grew darker. He looked at Felicia. He knew she was their only hope. He told her she needed to be more careful. He said performance, not seniority, was the key. He reminded her that she had been making mistakes. The mistakes were minor. Many were caused by Leo's deliberate interference. Felicia's face paled, then flushed with anger. She said she was disappointed in the office environment. She stood up abruptly. She announced that one person should not have all the power. She marched toward the glass-walled office. She confronted Leo, her voice raised. Then she knocked on Caleb's door and went inside. She was in there for over half an hour. When she came out, she shot Leo a furious glare. That evening, everyone else left early. They knew Caleb would want to talk to Leo. Once the office was empty, Leo knocked on Caleb's door. Caleb told him to come in. His first words were unexpected. "Let's go get dinner." Leo's expression was complicated. Caleb looked at him. He asked if he was too deep in character. Had he forgotten about his side job? Leo replied calmly. He said it was easy to get lost. The director had given him a very demanding role. Caleb said he seemed to be enjoying it. Leo admitted he could not complain. He was being paid to be a tool. Caleb said that was the definition of his job. Leo sighed. He said it was a job that required navigating pitfalls. He knew Caleb had already decided who would stay. He was just using Leo to do the dirty work. Caleb did not deny it. He said seeing through his plan was also part of the test. He complimented Leo on his progress. He was a ruthless capitalist, Leo thought. He asked why the changes were necessary. Caleb changed the subject. He asked again about dinner. Leo knew he would not get an answer. He agreed to go. He stretched his shoulders. He said he was switching to side job mode. He needed to warm up. They went down in the private elevator. Leo asked about the frequency of their side job. Did they have to act even when they were alone? Caleb said of course. The double salary was not for nothing. Leo was skeptical. No one was watching them. Caleb explained it was for practice. Their performances had been unconvincing. The elevator reached the garage. Caleb stepped in front of Leo, blocking his exit. He asked if Leo did not want to have dinner. Trapped, Leo quietly said he did. Caleb was irritated by his timidness. He demanded to know why he was so hesitant. This was not the confident man from the meeting. He remembered Leo's behavior at his house. The young man had been like a frightened squirrel. He had even brought his own lunchbox. Caleb wanted to ask if he thought he would be eaten. But looking at Leo's wide, dark eyes, the words died. He wondered if he had been too harsh. Leo finally spoke. He said this was his mode outside of work. In the office, he was not afraid. Caleb repeated his words, skeptical. At work, I'm not afraid of you? Leo explained that he understood the rules of the office. Caleb was demanding but fair. As long as the work was good, he was fine. But outside of work, he did not know the rules. He did not know how to act. Caleb reminded him of his boldness at the meeting. He had touched his hand in front of everyone. Leo's face turned red. That was acting, he protested. Caleb challenged him to act now. Leo felt cornered. He explained that he needed to be with Caleb often. He could not maintain a professional attitude. What was he supposed to do? Caleb said he should act like a partner. Leo stared at him. It was easy for Caleb to say. He clearly had no relationship experience. Leo blurted out that it was impossible. In a real relationship, he could be a little needy. Caleb frowned. Needy? Leo explained that he could be moody, and he liked to be affectionate. Caleb was stunned. He could not imagine it, but the thought was strangely displeasing. He asked if Leo had been like that with his ex. Leo was mortified. He bit his lip and refused to answer. Caleb saw the pale marks on his lip. A wave of irrational anger washed over him. He imagined Leo acting that way with someone else. He ordered him not to be so dramatic. This confirmed it. They could only ever be boss and subordinate. Leo took a deep breath. He said he would adjust his attitude next time. He looked up at Caleb. His eyes were soft. A faint smile played on his lips. His cheeks were still flushed. He asked in a gentle voice, "Are we still getting dinner? I'm a little hungry." Caleb's throat felt tight. The air in the elevator suddenly felt thin. So this was what he meant. He loosened his tie. He stepped aside and let Leo exit. He asked what he wanted to eat. Leo walked out beside him. He said he was still thinking about the meal at Caleb's house. He looked at Caleb with hopeful eyes. He joked that Caleb should give his chef a raise. Caleb grunted a non-committal response. He said he would let him eat it again sometime. Leo wondered if that was another invitation. He secretly began to look forward to it.